important and is essential for the survival of each and every living organisms. And of course, in Earth, that is on Earth, water occupies the most abundant. That is, it occupies a very high percentage on Earth. So that is why even if you are going to look at Earth itself, Earth is made of I think, three major components: water, rocks, and soil. But water occupies the largest percentage. The water occupies the largest percentage on Earth. In fact, I think later water occupies about 80 to 90%. So we should understand this. But the living system, the living organisms, water constitute also a largest percentage because in our cells, in our living system, water have a percentage of about 70 to 90%. 70 to 90% of our cells or of our body is made of water. And this water is present, must be present before any metabolic activities can take place in a cell. So remember, in a cell, we have a cell, and this cell can be either plant cell or animal cell. So in these cells, most of the metabolic activities are taking place in a cell. Most of the metabolic activities are taking place in a cells. Most of the metabolic activities. What is metabolism or metabolic activities? Metabolic activities actually is the sum of the total biological reaction, the sum of biological reactions that are taking place in your it is very, very important. And when we said metabolic activities, it's the total biological reactions that are taking place in the body. So all the biological reactions that are taking place in the body is called metabolic activities, because it is actually this reaction that make us alive. So without water, there will be no metabolic activities, because all the enzymes, all the proteins, all the biological molecules are suspended in water. So water is very, very important for our survival. If there is no water, then there is no life. And this water is referred to as a weak electrolytes. What is weak electrolytes? Weak electrolytes is a type of electrolytes that's the dissociation of the ions is very partial, it's not complete. So that is weak electrolytes, and we have strong electrolytes. A strong electrolyte is a type of electrolyte in which all the ions that are present in that molecules will be will be dissociate strongly. So water is a weak electrolyte. It means that they undergo partial dissociation to produce these ions, and the ions is hydrogen ion and hydroxyl ion. Remember that water molecules is made up of H2O. So when you said dissociation, it means the breaking down of particular compound. It's the breaking down of particular compound to produce ions. And these ions can be or depend on the type of compound. Like, for example, the water molecule is an electrolyte. So when it undergoes dissociation, it produces hydrogen ion and hydroxyl ion. But this dissociation is partial, it's not complete. So because it is not complete, it is partial, that is why it's considered as a weak electrolyte. Yeah. And then the next thing that we are going to talk about is acid and base. What is an acid? An acid is a substance that's either loses or, yeah, an acid is a substance that actually dissociates to produce a proton. It's a substance that dissociates or that dissolve in water to produce hydrogen ion. That is an acid. While a base is a substance that dissociates to produce hydroxyl ion. So it means that whenever you have a substance like, for example, now, if you have, let's say, HCl, it usually dissociates in water to produce hydrogen ion plus the conjugate base. So that is an acid. So any substances that dissociate in water to produce hydrogen ion is called an acid. Or in the other way, we call it, or we can define an acid as a substance that loses a protons. What is a proton? So whenever we said a protons, it means hydrogen ion. Hydrogen ion is a proton. So it loses a proton. Like, for example, this is an acid. Why? Because we have HCl, and this HCl now loses or remove hydrogen ion. So you see, hydrogen ion is lost. And hydrogen ion, remember I said, is proton. So whenever you donate or you loses a proton, which is hydrogen ion from a particular molecules, it tells you that that substance is called acids. And then for the base, what they did actually is the gain of protons. They accept protons. They are proton acceptor. They are proton acceptor. Okay. I hope this is clear.
Yes, sir.
Your voice is breaking. We are following,
My
but
voice is
your voice.
breaks maybe through the absorption of carbon dioxide, or maybe introduction of some microorganisms into a particular system. There may be actually a change in pH. Remember, a pH is what determines whether the substance is acidic, basic, or neutral. So we have a range of pH. We have a range of pH. We have a range of pH starting from 1 to 14. And the value of this pH depend on the nature of the substance. So when you have a substance having a pH from 1 to, I think it is important here for me to draw what you call a pH scale. So a pH scale usually started from 0, 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, up to 7 here, 8, 9, up to 14. So any substances that have a pH between 0 to this 7 is acids, is acidic. So if you actually measure the pH of a particular substance using pH meter, and you realize or you observe that you have a pH of between 0 to 7, so that tells you that the substance is an acidic. And when it is actually between 7 to 14, it tells you that that substance is a base or alkali. You can call it alkali or base. So a substance with a pH of 8 is a base. Because actually we can decide to give you a different substances in the lab and ask you to check whether that particular substance is acid or base. So how do you do it? Then you use a pH meter. The pH meter will tell you the pH of that particular substances. So if it is between 0 to 7, it tells you that the substance is acidic. And the lower the pH, the higher the acidity. Like for example, now if you have 5 different substances, one with a pH of 1, another one with a